everyone. In today's episode of What the Beck, we have Hitesh Kumar Gulati with us.
And he's a management consultant and he's a top career coach as well.
It was great talking to him.
He shared a lot of intricacies of business with us, and we welcome him to the What the Beck podcast.
So starting off on a cup of tea, since you didn't start initially with your business and entrepreneurship journey, how would you explain was the moment that you realized that you have that business instinct inside you, or can it be developed with time?
The business acumen.
How it started, I'll first start with my professional journey, how it started. It didn't started with entrepreneurship first. It started with a job. I was employed as IT intern with Commonwealth Youth Program Asia Center in Sector 12, Chandigarh. And I started as a graphic designer. So that was a total, you can say, change of my career. If you see the current profession, I am into business consulting. So I'm from HR and operations background. But my journey started from IT, which was graphic designing part earlier. And after that, I was with Co-op Systems Private Limited as you can say shift manager for the European shift. So the first 3 years was IT and operations. And then one of my South Indian friends, he was there and he said, Hitesh, based on your nature, the way you read people from their words and the sentences, 80% of my readings were almost right about any particular person. So he said, why don't you get into recruitment? So that was a change in my, you can say, profession, and that was the time in 2004 when I thought of starting my own venture. And to answering to your question, Khushi, that you have shared, entrepreneurship is something which is not in you inside, that you develop with due course of time.
So, since you talked about entrepreneurship, so we see a lot of Shark Tank stuff and other new age entrepreneurs coming in pitching their ideas. So, do you find any strength or any weakness you want to discuss about the new age entrepreneurs? Anything they lack or anything their expertise on? They have their expertise on.
Right. So I'll not say anything anybody lacks, but what I generally consider it for myself as it is for others also. I always say, I'll say it in Hindi and Punjabi. I always say that I am GDP. So GDP is, generally we think of GDP is related to inflation part, but it is not related to inflation in my case. I call myself as GDP, which is Ganti Da Putla. Right? So this is how I take my particular life also, even if it's related to professional journey. And the same way I suggest the budding entrepreneurs or you can just startups to have this particular nature, because till the end also you'll keep on improving on your particular things. But in case of startups, one thing I would share in terms of pitching for a business plan, always follow PST approach. PST approach. Now, what is this PST approach? P is problem statement, S is your solution, and T is the team which is backing that particular startup. So, whenever we are pitching up with a business plan in terms of Shark Tank or on any other platforms, if we work on that particular thing, PST approach, but to start with a story, why we are coming up with this particular startup, or you can say innovative idea. If we follow that particular approach, chances are there our ideas will be, you can say, liked by most of the investors there. And another thing I would like to share, 87% of the startups, which is taken from one of the reports from Deloitte, that 87% of the startups, they fail in first 2 or 3 years of their startup of the venture, right? So this is the time when they have to sustain.
Yes.
Right? And for sustaining those things, you need to have a very, you can say, good mental resilience. Talking again about the startups for this, I would say, while presenting with their business plans, a lot of startups, they concentrate a lot on what kind of features their product is having, right? Apart from this, sometimes they lack or sometimes they miss the financials part, because investors are always interested in knowing how your startup is going in next 2 or 3 years, right? So they'll be interested more in knowing that particular part, apart from the technical things which are there in the product.
So you discussed about team as well. So do you think at the very starting age of a startup, one must have more team members क्योंकि उतनी equity dilute होगी. So with regards to, and you also mentioned about the financials. So equity dilution भी हो रही है और financials. So how to balance that? क्योंकि आपने बताया problem भी है, statement, the solution as well, and the team. तो team और financials को कैसे balance करें with regards to that?
So Agastya, इसमें ना दो चीजें होती हैं. When we talk about any particular startup, one is bootstrapping.
Right.
I hope all of you understand Agastya and Khushi and the entire club of University Institute of Legal Studies. You understand there is a difference between bootstrap and when you're getting money from the investor. So if you talk about my particular approach, I always prefer or suggest the startups to go for bootstrapping rather than going for getting the money from the investors, right? Because once you have your own money into that particular startup, you'll be more serious towards that particular thing.
Yes.
So in terms of equity, obviously we sometimes go for that depending upon how we want to scale up our particular business, right? And based on that, sometimes we go for investors also. So my personal suggestion would be go for bootstrapping first. If you are not able to gather those particular financials part for your startup, then reaching the investors should be the second option.
Reaching the investors.
Taking us a little back on the conversation, the GDP line really stuck with me. So everyone says that mistakes and failures leads you to success. So what do you think was the biggest mistake in your journey that taught you that made you who you are today?
The biggest mistake in my journey was hitch. Hitch means वही झिझक. मेरे को झिझक रही थी कई चीजों में. I started with a background of HR and operations. So whenever you are from HR and operations, while approaching clients, sometimes you have that hitch. You don't feel very comfortable approaching to the clients for acquiring more business. In that case, I would say it is one of my elder brother who is no more right now. Right? He was the one who was pushing me like anything. Hitesh, get into that particular mood. Go and approach your clients. Your work speaks for yourself, but till the time you don't approach your clients, the entire thing is going waste, right? So one is that my elder brother, and my wife also played a very important role in this because she comes from a background of HR and business development.
Okay.
Right? So both of them, they are the key players in my life while opening up that particular hitch. So I am an introvert who got converted into an extrovert because started from HR and operations.
Right.
But based on my further journey where I also ventured into trainings.
Okay.
And while you are a trainer, you have to be very open talking to the audience part. And the more you connect with people, chances are there, the more that particular session would be more interactive and people will get engaged also. So both of them, they played a very major role in my life in opening up that particular hitch.
So the key is to get out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
Okay. And you mentioned about the training sessions you give. So are they completely corporate driven or to the different business organizations?
It is not corporate driven. Again, there is a story behind that also. If you allow me, Agastya, I can say that also.
Yes, we'd love to share that.
I started with the corporate sector, HR interventions part, and then I ventured into trainings, then third into report writing, and fourth into program management. But while going for this particular journey, when I was venturing into trainings, a lot of my friends, or you can say relatives, they also suggested go for corporate sector only. They don't go for government sector or don't go for education sector because the payouts, there would be a lot of difference in terms of payouts. So I have a very bad habit, Agastya and Khushi. Wherever my friends and relatives says, Hitesh, this is not the area to venture into, I always try, give it a try. And till the time you don't give it a try, गलती का पुतला आप बनोगे नहीं, आपको पता नहीं चलेगा कि किस तरह की mistakes होती हैं. So this is how I ventured into government also. I ventured for education sector also. A lot of my trainings are commercial. Some of my trainings are on pro bono basis also. But every training gives you a different learning because while you are dealing with people in government sector, the audience is totally different. And in education sector, again, the mindset is different. And again, the corporate sector, the audience is different from what we have in government sector as well as education sector. So it's a learning from both the sides where we also share knowledge on a respective subject with them, and the same way we learn from their own reactions, or you can say the way they get engaged in our particular sessions.
You have expertise in HR. Your wife also have expertise in HR. So, what advice would you like to give to a person or a student for that matter? We have an HR department in our club. What advice would you like to give them?
To the HR.
To the HR.
Again, first I start with become GDP,
Okay.
because GDP covers almost all the things. But to go more specifics into that, one is GDP, second is to have outcome of the knowledge. We always say, I have a lot of knowledge into this particular area. No one is interested in knowing about your knowledge till the time you don't give output of that particular knowledge. So it is very important to shift your orbit from having knowledge of something or acquiring knowledge to outcome of the knowledge. The third very important part is become a child, right? And the more serious we get in our particular life, we have that particular, oh, don't tell me, Agastya, Khushi, I have around 20 plus years of experience, so I know how this particular area works and how corporate sector works. If I am having that particular attitude, trust me, my graph will go down in next few months or next few years also. So have that child syndrome in you. Don't have that guru syndrome, consultant syndrome, or boss syndrome. Because if that is coming, somewhere you will be missing on you can say the learning part and the agility part also. Because then you'll become more rigid in nature. And fourth is data plays a very important role now. So even if when we take our particular trainings also, we always emphasize use data analysis or data interpretation for logical results in taking decisions for any particular business.
Right.
And the last, which is very important again, usage of tools and technology in order to support your production.
Tools as in?
Tools as in, if I talk about data analysis, to start with very simple ways, we use Excel.
Excel.
But going forward, we can use Tableau also, BI also. But again, that is also very basic tools for doing the data analysis.
For maintaining the CRM, the customer
Maintaining
relationship.
CRM, studying something about consumer behavior, what kind of features they are liking in our particular product, or what they are expecting us to improve on our particular products. So that again comes from data. So that which is a mixture of qualitative and quantitative data.
And the feedbacks we get from the consumers.
Yes. Because this is a you can say customer centric market. So if we don't work on the customer experiences, we'll be soon thrown out of the market.
Yes. So if there is any new startup and they want to get the feedback of their particular product, so how to increase their sample size with regards to their testing and the feedback? Because if I start a product and I have very limited people to check and then test the product, but how to increase that sample size so more and more people check my product, give me the feedback, and then I can work on that with the Excel and other part.
Right. So one is, as you rightly said, Agastya, one we are approaching to our direct contacts.
Yes.
Second is, which you all know, we are using LinkedIn a lot for professional networking. So another way of putting it on LinkedIn and tagging your circle in your friend who's having a greater, you can say, network.
Right.
So and even you can request them through WhatsApp message also to help you in this particular initiative of doing a survey of this particular product or service.
Okay.
So the more you spread through your direct networks also, that also again will add. And apart from this, Survey Monkey is also there for making the surveys.
Survey Monkey.
And there are certain tools which helps you in sending bulk mails also.
Yes, we know.
I don't remember the tools, or you can say the softwares right now.
The mass emailing.
Yeah, I think Leapfrog is one of the name, and there might be others. Mailchimp is also there.
Okay.
So that is there.
So this helps in networking.
And reaching out to masses when we are going for a bigger sample size.
Right.
So that is.
So what are your views on MLM?
Multi-level marketing.
Yes.
I have tested myself in MLM also.
Okay.
That was again long time back, Agastya. And it's good to know what kind of question you are asking. Somehow it has a part in my particular professional journey also. It was 2011 or 2012 when I also tried MLM. And I will not name the MLM company. I believe in one thing, whether it is MLM or whether it is some other business, every business is good till the time you have some interest into that, because if you have some interest, you will prove in that. So there are people in my circle also have proven very good in the MLM also. But that was not a piece of, you can say, cake for me. I tried it for almost 2-3 months, and I was not able to make a network more than 25 or 30 people in my network. But MLM, I would say that is, I would not prefer to go for MLM.
I mean, instead you will opt for the actual business right from the
Yes.
scratch.
Because somehow I believe in your intellect should improve over the period of time.
Yes.
And in MLM, your intellect would not improve. Your network will improve, but the intellect will not improve. And the same thing, if I apply to my own, you can say, areas of working also, I always prefer adding something new into my own services after 2 or 3 months. वो जब तक वो मसाला बीच में और ऐड नहीं होता है, I don't enjoy working on my own domain also. So this is how I like working.
So, since you said that we need to become a child, like we need to try new things and have that masala in our lives, so people might lose themselves in it, or that risk of failure or mistake, they might lose themselves. So, what do you think? Is there anything particular reason that we need to ground ourselves to something, like what we are working towards? How do you ground yourself when you're like when the stress is really getting to you?
So there are two things I'll share in this particular thing. One is, again, I follow an ABC approach. Now, what is this ABC approach? First is your activating trigger, A. B is your belief, and C is your consequences. Now, my question to you is, giving you an instance, Khushi, the way you asked. If your activating trigger is, oh my god, how will I reach this office on time because I'm already late? What is your belief going to be?
If I'm getting late, then obviously consequences will be I'll be.
Belief, consequences would be the third part. Activating trigger is, oh my god, how will I reach my office on time? I'm already late by 15 minutes. Now I'll have traffic in between. So how will I reach my office? So based on this activating trigger, what would be your beliefs? I could have answered it in a right way, but asking you about that particular instance will make it more easier to understand this ABC. Then I'll talk about the second part. What would be your belief, or you can say belief consists of your actions, your thoughts.
I'll get like negative thoughts and
Yeah.
I'll start doubting myself, questioning things.
Or otherwise, if you're going in a cab, you'll say, you'll request the driver, can you please run the car fast? Or you can probably you can call
I'll
someone.
rate you low, drive faster.
Right. So activating trigger was negative. Belief again, or your actions, your thoughts again got negative. So consequences again, you lose your emotional balance, and somehow instead of reaching on time, you'll reach late. But ultimately, based on that, going forward also, if you're going to your office, your mood will be not in a good mood. So the entire day would also go in that particular way. Whereas if let's take I'm just giving an instance, so don't take it otherwise. Let's take an example of Agastya. Now Agastya says, no problem, I'm late by 15 minutes. Still I have ways to cover this particular distance and I'm able to reach my office on time. So if his activating trigger would be positive, obviously he'll find out ways from which all areas he can go.
Right.
Cab again would get late because getting stuck in a traffic in a cab is very easy. But if you are going through two-wheeler or some other mode of conveyances also, you'll be able to reach on time.
Like a positive approach.
Yes. So his activating trigger was positive. So his thoughts, his action again became positive beliefs. And the consequences was he was having an emotional balance. That is the reason he was able to think of those A, B, and then come to the C part, right? Now, how this ABC is developed, there are three things. फिर मसाले वाली चीज आ गई, उसमें तीन चीजें होती हैं जो कि बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होती है. First is your ambiguity threshold. Now, what is ambiguity threshold? Dealing with uncertainties. Okay. This certain position was there. So, Khushi's thought was, what if I'll get late? What will happen? I'll be marked late, and this is my second or third day in a month. So, might be there would be some deduction to my salary also, right? His thought was, oh no, it doesn't matter. I'm 15 minutes late, still I'll be able to make it by this much time. So at least I'll be able to reach 1 or 2 minutes before the right time of the starting of my office, right? So his ambiguity threshold, he was not thinking too much about what if. He was giving a very less space for what if, whereas you were giving 80% of your thought process to what if. So that was positive. Based on that, your internal monologue was also positive.
Right.
So first
he
is ambiguity
reflect over-
threshold.
Yeah. And
Second is now internal monologue. His internal monologue was, I'll make it at any cost. I'll reach 1 or 2 minutes before the start of my office time. And based on this, his energy level, your energy level, he was rating the energy level. Because if you are too much high with the energy also, sometimes it builds stress or anxiety. If you maintain a balance of energy, you keep that particular balance, ultimately the consequences would be in a much better way rather than keeping it the other way. So this was an instance, don't feel bad, Khushi or Agastya. Yeah.
so you mentioned about how you were driven by a family as well, right? So how do you maintain your work-life balance with regards to this? Because we were on call and you were discussing that he has to go to different sessions as well after this. And so how do you maintain that work-life balance?
So there are two things that I always say while talking about these responsibilities. I always say, Hitesh, bete, ये करना तो तू नहीं है और करेगा तू ही. These are the two things that I always say. But again, coming to this part that you have asked about the balance part, earlier I was having problem in balancing those things.
Right.
Now I have made a ground rule that after 6 or 7 in the evening, I'll spend some time with my children and with my wife and my father also.
Right.
I lost my mother last year, so I have made it a habit since last few years now that I spend 6 p.m. after 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. with my family, either playing carom or ludo or watching movies.
So no work after 6.
After 6 or 7, I don't prefer working. Till the time it is very critical to do that. Even if it is critical, I prefer getting up early in the morning at around 4 o'clock or 4:30, and then I prefer to complete that work during that particular time. Right?
Thank you. Those tips were amazing. I'm sure we can turn them from theory or like spoken words to practical example with masterclass and everything. Yeah.
On please.
Bring masala to our club as well.
So to conclude with, become GDP in your
Yeah, becoming the GDP. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so much,
so
sir.
much, Khushi. Thank you,
Thank you.
Agastya, and thank you entire team of
Yes. Guys,
University
please
Institute of
join.
Legal Studies, Panjab University.